What makes a piece of writing compelling? Well, I've boiled it down to just one phrase and 3 words. And I've discovered that this method works for just about every single kind of writing, from nonfiction to fiction. And you can dial it up or down based on whoever it is that you're writing for. Because the antidote to boring writing is pop writing. This acronym stands for personal, observational, and playful. Personal writing is how you actually relate to your readers, build a connection. Observational writing is how you teach them, and then playful writing is how you entertain them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through all 3 pillars, each pillar in detail. But first what I want to do is I want to give you an example of what all 3 read like together. Now, this example comes from David Foster Wallace, one of my favorite writers, and he wrote this book called Infinite Jest. And he had a decades-long career publishing fiction and essays, pieces of journalism. But what I really like about him is the way that he commented on American culture in the 90s and the early 2000s. And that's why I love his writing. It pops. So here's the example. Wallace is talking about the way that he writes fiction in an interview from 1996. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this once, then I'm going to break it down for you into the 3 pillars of pop writing, okay? I'm pretty lonely most of the time, and fiction's one of the few experiences where loneliness can be both confronted and relieved. Drugs, movies where stuff blows up, loud parties. All these chase loneliness away by making me forget my name's Dave and I live in a 1x1 box of bone no other party can penetrate or know. Fiction, poetry, music, really deep, serious sex, and in various ways, religion, these are the places, for me, where loneliness is countenanced, stared down, transfigured, treated. In lots of ways, it's all there is. So what do I like about him? I feel like he saw America in such depth and detail, like you just heard that, and those insights make his writing observational. Reading his work feels like having a close, intimate conversation with a friend, which makes it feel personal. And then in order to communicate so descriptively, he'll bend language, he'll make up words, he'll stretch words and grammar, which then also makes his writing immensely playful too. I love it. So as you watch this video, remember this example. We're going to use it to dissect each of the 3 pillars of pop writing: personal, observational, and playful. Personal. This pillar is all about the human element, building connection with your reader by telling stories, sharing firsthand experiences. But also, it helps you build your persona as a writer and then build credibility with your reader. It starts with a confession, right? He says, I'm pretty lonely most of the time. And then it ends with details about how he would deal with loneliness, like fiction and poetry, music, sex, religion. And immediately, you know important details about who David Foster Wallace is as a writer, and also why fiction is so important to him. He's relating to you by sharing parts of himself. And as a writer, if you want your reader to relate to you, you got to be incorporating those personal elements into your craft. Observational. This second pillar is about your insights, your observations about reality, what you see that other people don't. And this is the thing that makes your writing useful and interesting, because you're actually teaching your readers. You're writing about what you see that other people don't, and you're giving your readers a new way to look at the world, like a fresh perspective, you know? And David Foster Wallace does this in spades. Fiction is an experience that helps you confront and relieve loneliness. Like when you're reading a novel, how often do you think about fiction as a cure to loneliness? And even within an answer about his personal reasons for writing fiction, what Wallace is doing is he's sharing these big picture insights about it too. And these insights are making his writing valuable to me as a reader because I'm actually learning something. And while the personal elements that we talked about earlier, they convey context and feelings, these observational elements, they give you as a reader, they give you something to take away, something that's going to stick in your head after you put the book down. Playful. This isn't about being silly and immature. Let me just set that straight from the beginning. It is about injecting your writing with life, with words and phrases and sentences that delight your reader and lend higher resolution to your ideas. You're dialing up the saturation. You're making your writing come alive. Because through playfulness, you're injecting your writing with a sort of magic, like a fresh flavor. It is your personality on the page, and it's the thing that makes your writing entertaining. And Wallace is nothing short of a word magician. Like, just look at this part in the middle. Drugs, movies where stuff blows up, boom, making me forget my name's Dave. That language for me as a reader is surprising and delightful and fun. And as a reader, it makes you want to keep reading. So in your writing, look for opportunities to inject playfulness into it. Have fun with word choice and rhythm. Say, hey, how do I write something that the reader wouldn't expect, that they haven't seen elsewhere? It's going to keep them engaged. But also, notice that pop writing is not about using big words, like countenanced. I don't even know what that word means. No clue. And this paragraph would be just as good without that SAT word. So this is what pop writing looks like. The purple means personal, the orange means observational, and the pink, that's playful. But hey, most of what you read, it probably doesn't pop. So let's look at what happens when you miss strike zero on one of these three pillars. If your writing is only personal, well, you're not going to have anything more than a diary entry. If your writing is only observational, it's going to end up reading like a lame scientific paper. And if your writing is only playful, it's going to sound like a tabloid. Yeah, sure, it'll be entertaining, but it won't have insights or the kind of rigor that you want in your writing. But even if your writing hits two of these pillars, it's still going to be missing something. Because without the observational pillar, your writing will be entertaining, but not informative. Without the playful pillar, your writing will be informative, but not distinct or fun to read. And then without the personal pillar, your writing will lack the kind of relatability that makes for a strong connection between readers and you, the writer. Now you might be thinking,
well, hey David, my writing is serious. There's no way that I can write with personal and playful in my work. There's no way.
Okay, hold on. I've heard this a million times. And for this, there's a sizzle spectrum. And the optimal amount of sizzle depends on who it is that you're writing for. The invitation to your best friend, your absolute homie's bachelor party, should probably read differently than the memo that you need to submit at the end of the financial quarter. I'm not going to argue about that. There's something about the medium of writing that I don't know why, but it makes people all serious and stuffy. I don't get it. Like when they open up a Google Doc, they all of a sudden lose their personality and they go into some sort of like dry academic research paper mode. It's like they're trying to impress their boss, like show off to their 5th grade English teacher or something. You don't need to do that. What you got to do is you got to find the right balance of pop based on whoever it is that you're writing for. Don't miss on any of these three pillars. And playfulness, it's the one that people struggle with the most. Newsflash, it is okay for people to enjoy your writing. And even the most serious of topics can be communicated playfully. We just saw that with the David Foster Wallace example, right? Like he's making this deep point there, and yet you enjoy reading it. So we've spoken a bunch about pop writing, and the question is, where do you go next? The thing that I love about pop writing is that you can basically eyeball any piece of writing to instantly see what it's missing. And know that as a writer, you're probably going to be weak in one of these pillars. Like, for me, it's personal writing. That's the one that I just struggle with the most. Every single time. I don't know why. But I shy away from writing about myself. And it's easy. Like, if I'm hanging out with friends, just talking to people, no problem. But for whatever reason, I sit down to write, and it's hard to do it then. And I've learned that about myself. But for you, don't just write with the pop writing lens. Read with it too. And for me, what I like to do is I like to pick up a book and I'll just pick up great personal writing so that I can see what the writer's doing that I can then bring back into my own writing. And for you, when you find a sentence or a paragraph that you like, just look at it through the pop writing lens. Do it exactly like we did with David Foster Wallace in that paragraph before. We are highlighting the personal, the observational, the playful components of whatever it is that you're reading. And ask yourself, what is it that I like about this person's writing? And also, how can I bring that same sense of style into my own work?